videos so that more people can hear the Word of God.
Good morning and welcome to 5 Minutes a Day with God. And welcome to Thursday. And we are going, the story has passed. We're in Genesis chapter 26, verses 1 through 32. So go ahead and read that on your own. But the story has passed from Abraham to over to Isaac. So Isaac's in center stage right now. And this story, when you read it, is going to see a little bit like deja vu, because there's very similarities to a story that Abraham encountered that happened to him just a few chapters ago. And so when we read it, you might think, this is very similar. What's going on? So unfortunately, we see Isaac making the same mistakes and sins that his father did in some ways. So here's the story of Isaac and Abimelech. And I remember as a child reading, or even as a teen or young adult, reading these stories and seeing Abimelech, I think this is the third time Abimelech is mentioned. And I always thought, wow, Abimelech was pretty old. But remember, Abimelech is a title. So here he's the king of the Philistines. So it's a title. So that's why we hear he has his own Abimelech. So similar to what happened to Abraham, there's famine in the land. And so his first recourse was to move. Again, instead of waiting it out and believing that God would provide for him and his family, he decides to move. And so God says, okay, you can move, but don't go that far. Don't go as far south to Egypt. So he's going kind of as far as he can go, and he's in the land of the Philistines, right? So he's going south, and so as he's there, the Philistine, Abimelech, they notice that Rebecca had the same issue that Sarah, which was her aunt, right, had, is that she was very beautiful. And Isaac goes into the same pattern that his dad had, he lived out of fear, right? So he was fearful with the situation because his wife was very beautiful, and he thought, she's so beautiful, they're going to kill me so that they can have my wife. And so what he did, the same pattern that Abraham did, is he said, she's my sister. But of course, this was with Abraham, Sarah was his half-sister, but Rebecca is his cousin. So he said, this is my sister. And so then they're living there in that land, and Abimelech looks out of his window and he sees Isaac showing affection to his wife. So that's how it's phrased. We don't know exactly what was happening, if he was embracing her, if he was kissing her, what was happening there. But he goes and he calls him out. And he's like, what are you doing? This is your wife. Why didn't you tell us this, right? And then again, God protects them. He protects Isaac and Rebekah just as he protected Abraham and Sarah. And so while he was there, he becomes really wealthy. And the Philistines are very envious. And so they try to stop his wells, right? They try to dig his wells. And so this was a significant attack, because especially in the desert, you needed water for yourself and your animals. And so they were basically trying to sabotage him. And because of that, that's the harm of living too close to the enemy, right? And the enemy was attacking him. But God uses this conflict, because then Isaac realized, I've been living here too long. Again, this is not the area that God has called him to, right? And so this is where he moves back to Beersheba, and that's where Abraham was before. And so at the end of the story, when you read it, if you read all 32 verses, you see that Philistines come back and they make peace with Isaac because he's very prosperous. So they want his favor. They know that something's different on Isaac. They know that there is a God that is showing protection and favor on Isaac. So they respect that and fear that as well. And so I want you to think about that, what this says to us, how we respond to this, to me, is sometimes we live too close, right? Too close to the enemy. And that's the problem. Sometimes we're too intimate. We're in intimate relationships with people that aren't believers. And could be envious, and there could be attack, right? And also sometimes we do things, again, out of fear. We may lie and say something about ourselves out of fear of protecting ourselves. And so instead of trusting fully in God, that God will take care of us where he has us. So I want you to think about that today, and think about maybe ways that you have done to self-protect yourself. And also that maybe reevaluate your relationships and say there's relationships that can be potentially sabotaging to me, even to myself, to spiritually, right? There's intimate relationships with people who don't know God and maybe can be pulling me away from God. So I want you to dwell on that today and think about that. Have a good day, and see you tomorrow. And remember, 5 minutes a day can change your life.